All right, hello and welcome to Stampscapes Friday Night Live. I have two pieces of paper here, cardstocks. This one is a very mirrored blue violet. It looks more blue on my screen here, but it's a little bit violet tinged, okay? And it's a very mirrored type of surface. This is a cardstock here. It's not a printable vinyl or something like that. And I'm going to try to do some blending on here. I haven't done that on this type of paper in a while. I've done it in the past with papers like the gold and silver mirrored ones that I use for reflection cards and that type of thing. You know, the ones that have a really glassy type of surface on there. I know I can apply some of my Brilliance white onto there. But there's always a question of whether I can stamp imagery then over the top of this type of ink and have it adhere and not just remove the white that's been applied down here, unless I spray seal it or something like that. But we're going to try it out. I really like the look of this type of paper in this type of approach. It's just a matter of, you know, making sure it works here. Okay, and then if we have time, I'll get to this other violet piece right here, one of the Tubb-Sedillo background papers, which is really cool. All right, so we're going to be doing a decent amount of white ink applications on here because you can't really stamp anything in here in black. You stamp on here in white and do reverse out impressions, and that's pretty good to pretty fun to do for you know, a certain type of look. Really great for things like Christmas cards, or you know, you can make little ornaments or gift tags, stuff like that, reversed out. And you can do that probably with a stays on white that will dry and adhere to this. Or you can do it with something like a Brilliance ink, which will dry, but then you just spray seal it upon completion and drying. Hello, Patty. How are you? All right, so let's give this a go here. I really like the look of this. I haven't tried this paper out at all, so this will be the first time using it here. Okay, so going back to what I was mentioning, we won't be able to see imagery on here unless we white out some areas where we could stamp right on top of it. Hello, Sam Hawkins, how are you? All right, let's see. Let me see if I can get a good cloud template here. We'll do something like this. Yeah, it's working out pretty good here. I think that's a pretty good little arc right there. Let me see. Let's do a kind of a little bit more of a narrow one as well. Oh, great, Patty. What media did you use? Like a cardstock or something? Or did you go exotic? So, you know, that being said, I consider this to be one of those kind of more exotic types of surfaces to stamp on, you know what I mean? It's not one of those that, you know, has been designed traditionally to be used, you know, with stamping. You know, it's more like one of those types where people are running them through, I don't know, like crickets or something like that and cutting out, you know, kind of interesting shapes and such with it. But the Brilliance inks kind of open up a little bit of a... Oh, it opens the door for a lot of these, you know, kind of dynamic surfaces to be explored. And you can get some pretty decent effects with them, so that's why I like using them. Okay, now I don't know exactly where I'm going to put this background white in here. Okay, I'm going to build it up from basically from the bottom up. I thought I would use the Mystic imagery. I thought this type of deep blue paper right here with this white, it kind of lends itself to kind of a... I mean, you can do anything you want on there, but I thought the mystic line of imagery would be kind of cool, where imagery are kind of separated by these I don't know, whatever, stacked clouds and mist. And yeah, I really like that look. Okay, so let's see. Okay, now this is going to be a really forgiving type of medium right here, because the white pigment ink is going to transfer on here, and at any given time, unless you spray seal it down, you can remove it. Even after this Brilliance ink dries completely, you should be able to just wipe it off, if you know what I mean. If you had to for some weird reason, or you were just kind of experimenting around and you wanted to use it like a, dry erase board, you know what I mean, where you're just kind of experimenting on there, and you just wipe it off, or you're practicing some cloud techniques and you want to eradicate it. It'd be like applying this ink on top of like glass or something like that. You can just wipe it off at any, like I said, at any given time, while it's wet, or while it's after it's completely dry. So that's one of the things. It's now I'm not using a StazOn white here. Okay, I'm using the Brilliance white, which is, again, it's a water-based pigment ink, and it's been designed to be fast drying due to its water-based nature. Not super fast drying, but on this type of paper, it will dry. So it's faster drying on things like glossy cardstock, porous types of papers. Some of stamps white cardstock and a little ink blending. Sounds good. Sounds good. I find that this type of look right here is really fun to do. The big thing is, can I stamp on top of that with imagery and have it show up? So we're going to try that. Okay, so I do these templates like this. Okay, but then I kind of move them around, or while you're doing that, unlike a plastic template that's not really designed, you kind of move it around a little bit like this, okay? And, or stencil, I should say, not template. But you gotta move it around a little bit to give it that little bit of depth. And I'll bring some down here too. This is where the imagery is going to be stamped out, right down here. All right, so kind of move it around, remove it, the stencil, and then do some free-handing, you know what I mean? Keep it, free form and easy to do. So even if I just kind of lay this down on here sometimes, it's like it removes some of that ink, because it's, like I said, this is a really glassy surface, so if you're ever doing this, especially if you're doing it kind of, the first few times or something like that, what you'll find is you're holding this down with your fingers, and it's like removing, all of the ink off of there. I don't find that frustrating. I mean, it'd be nice if this was really adhered and transferred on there, but again, it makes it really malleable. So that's the other side of this, the other side of the coin, is that it's not drying and adhering nicely and quickly and permanently. But, if you ever do anything that you don't like, you just wipe it right off and start over again. It's really cool for that. And you know what I mean? I mean, that type of ability just doesn't really exist in most, media surface combinations and in any type of art, or stamping. Let's see. Switch to watching on my TV. Yeah, on a phone it might be kind of small. But we'll be doing some kind of large applications here initially with the background. I might be able to get a lot of the whatever the cloud placement composed here. I thought I'd just be doing it one at a time, but I don't know. Now that I see this starting to come into play here, and it's coming back to me a little bit, not completely. Where I've done kind of similar things in the past. If I don't do something for a few months, it feels like, sometimes I can't even remember how I did something completely. And again, it was more of the impressions on here. So I think what I'll do is I'll re-ink my Brilliance ink just to make sure that I can have the best chance of getting a good impression over the top of this. Because again, this is kind of wet right here, and it's not absorbed into the paper like whatsoever. Okay, now here's one of the things that's really fun about this type of mirrored blue cardstock. I guess with any color, but you can get those like real kind of like glowing types of looks by just applying, a thinner application. So the white right in there, it's really built up, but then you get these looks right in here. And to me, that it almost looks like it's glowing because this is very reflective. So the light is kind of penetrating through this layer of translucent white pigment ink, but you still get this, it's still reflective, so it's kind of reflecting back through there. So you get, to me, like I said, it looks like it's glowing to me. And I'm always interested in kind of a surface where it looks like the light is kind of coming from within the page out. You know what I mean? So that's one of the reasons why I find it fun to work on reflective surfaces, which I really didn't do for the first, 35 years of stamping, or whatever it's been. It's close to that. Just because, I wasn't really thinking about Brilliance inks and what they can do. I knew what they were designed for, but, just the ability to dry on something is a, pretty significant trait in terms of the uniqueness of this type of ink. Anytime I use this Brilliance and I start getting some kind of effect from it that only that ink can do, as far as I know, I start worrying about the longevity of it will be on the shelves, because there's only one manufacturer for this type of ink, and I don't know too many people using it. A lot of people used to use it because they wanted a pigment ink on glossy cardstock that would dry on glossy cardstock, and that's why they kind of developed it. All right, let's see. Let me get my bearings here. As far as where my imagery is going to go, I'm not going to spend too much time in here going for little details because I'm going to have an image that's going to be stamped right over the top of it anyway. So you don't want to spend too much time with that, And if you want to, you can go back and refine, some of the clouds around the image, okay, after you stamp the image out. Now, you might have to spray seal it before you go back in with white, just so you don't smear around, a black image that's over the top of it. But, don't worry if you, should have done a little bit more with white or something like that before the imagery got stamped out. It's not really a linear process, just, step 1, step 2, step 3. You can circle back around and go back to previous media and tweak things a little bit. And that's usually the case with all techniques and media combinations and sequencing. All right, so that's... Oops. I managed to not touch it. Now I just did, just picking this up right there. But you can see how clean that comes off. It, comes off completely. But, you just add it right back in like that. Find your touch too. If you press too hard, you might be kind of removing ink as opposed to transferring it. So I find that kind of a decent little tap down like that. If you have long fingernails, you have to watch out for that. Otherwise, you might be getting like little half moons in here. Or not half moons, but crescent moon shaped little dots in there. Or not dots, but marks. All right, so that is that. Now I'm going to build one over here, I think, like this. I'll have this mystic trees stamped out right down here, like that. And then we'll stamp another one right here. So I need some more clouds coming in from right about here. Let's see, let's go about like here and coming over this way. Kind of like this. Okay, like maybe like right there. I'm tempted to lay down, or to ink this up a little bit more, just to make it go a little bit faster, but you get that kind of nice light application if your pad isn't too wet. You know what I mean? If this is like too slathered with ink, it gets a little bit kind of blobby looking. And which you can kind of blend out too, but sometimes I find it's just, I might get a thicker application of ink the wetter this is, but I think it goes faster doing it this way, where it's a little bit lighter, because then you don't have to go back and tweak things and keep blending things away, because it never gets like totally built up a lot, to begin with. Thanks, Patty. All right, let's flip this over just so I'm not accidentally touching this area in here. Let's see, let's go back to that template again. Let's use that again. We'll go like, maybe, let's flip this over and go this way. Like that a little bit. Let's go down a little bit more. Okay, now here, one of the subtle things I'm doing is I'm inking this up now a little bit more with the stencil, paper towel stencil, okay, just so I can get a thicker edge to this cloud right here, top edge. So it's a little blobby right there, but then you just stay there and just kind of blend it in. It's like blending in, if there was like someone was doing like a old-fashioned clown makeup, this would be like cold pack cream or something. All right, I like that edge right there. Let me put a little bit of a stronger edge right in here. I'm just going to add it in. I'm not going to put it right on the top. I'm going to add it kind of in somewhere in the body of that cloud. All right, something like that, and let's develop that edge a little bit more. All right, like that. Let's go back up to here. I think I need to go like way up here though. Let me see. I have that nice edge there. I think that's just going to get like completely buried. Yeah. I don't know if we'll be able to see any of it. Here, let me just do a quick fill in here. And then we'll kind of develop some shapes after that. But you see that real glowing type of edge in here? Like right down there. That's what I like most about, like I love that color just personally, but I love that look, you know, where something looks like it's glowing in there. You know, we tried glow in the dark, you know, sticker paper too, but I mean, that's like whatever, light reactive types of things. This is all reflective foil here, but I really like that edge in there like that. It sounds like this electric looking kind of effect. Now this paper is like super dynamic, not as dynamic as like a holographic or something like that, but it you know, having that glare in there kind of flashing back. So I think doing this coverage, it kind of tames it a little bit, and you know, in a scenic stamping context, it really makes it possible to use this type of surface, you know, that's going to be in kind of harmony with you know, nature imagery. Alright, let's bring a little bit down here as well. So it's kind of transitioning. It's going from really thin to thicker to, I don't know, whatever, medium. So you get a little bit of variation in there, okay? It's glowing, Cynthia. Go into the light. All right, let's see. Let's connect these. Not quite connect them up, but I want it to look like this one's in front. This cloud's a little bit behind, maybe. So I'll do a little bit more slight, I don't know, maybe like a slight merger right in here. All right, so we have this here, this here. I'm just checking to see if I've gone far enough up the side here for another impression right over the top of it. And then I want to put the Mystic Hills up here, I think, like that. Okay, so I need some clouds roughly about right here. Okay, and we'll throw a moon right over here, I think. So it's kind of going like that, here, here, or whatever, right, left, right, left. In theory, it'd be good to go over here again, you know, so that we have a composition of, you know, 5, you know, an odd number. But we don't have room. I can put a quote, like a word stamp up there, and that'll, you know, pull the eye over into that region. So we're going to, we have a lot of coverage here, okay? But even with that coverage down here, it's, you know what I mean? It's, we're covering it up, but we're not like obscuring it completely. I mean, that's all that reflective light can still shine through a lot of that, those clouds down there. And again, that's what's giving it that kind of glowing look. But this paper right here would be really good on a, like a shoreline scene, because it looks kind of like phosphorescent, or no, not phosphorescent, bioluminescent, whatever it is, plankton or whatever that is. You know, it would make that waves in the shoreline really glow like that. Right there. I think that'd be really good with the Seaside Cove now that I think about it. Okay, I'm going to go a little bit thicker with white over here because that's where my moon is going to be. Moon or stars? I don't know. Moon would be good. But I really like the stars too. It might have to be a full moon night with stars, you know. Which I know we wouldn't be able to see, but, you know, we do in art and stamping what you can't do, you know, usually in photography. I don't know, you can do all kinds of things in photography these days, you know. A lot of it's being done in post-production, but as my teacher used to say, why do what the camera can do, you know, so much better and easier and faster? Okay, so I'm going to put a moon right up there. So I'll make this cloud a little bit lighter too, where it's reflecting some of that moonlight. So lighter meaning, you know, a thicker application of ink. You just kind of build it up a little bit more. I'm surprised at how light that area right down there is staying. Because usually when you apply this ink and when it really starts to dry, it really starts to get darker and darker. I didn't think I had you know, that amount of white down there. Unless, you know, I mean, it's still moist and wet, you know, damp. So it's not completely dry, but I'm surprised it's light as it is, I guess. Now, if we can only get some good impressions and retain what we've established here without it just completely ruining it. And that would be, you know, pretty nice. Alright, I think that's pretty decent of a backdrop, I think. Let's take a look here. Let's see. Okay, let me get my bearings here. Okay, this is going to go like that. And this is here. It's going to be a pretty simple composition in terms of, certainly in terms of the number of images. I don't know how many we'll use in here when all's said and done, but maybe, I don't know, 5, you know. I mean, this is a pretty decent size piece of cardstock too. But you know, we'll keep it fairly simple, I think, in terms of the images used. All right, might as well get to it here. Let's add in that moon. I'm just going with the 1-inch hole punch. Let me do it on this side. Here, let me make another hole punch. Why am I doing this? Here. We can afford another hole punch, I believe. Not the actual hole puncher, but punching a hole in the paper. I didn't want to pick up that red by, you know, tapping that white ink right over the top of it, because I think that's probably a water-based red ink right there. Okay, let's see here. Right here. Okay, so on these moons, I've mentioned this in the past, one of the things I like to do that's a little tweak here is you kind of vary the amount of ink. I think the moons look, it could be a sun too. Not in this scene, but into this technique right here. So you add a little bit more, kind of a heavier concentration of it, then on the lower end, just use a little bit less. Okay, that's for dye-based inks or whatever. Just transition your objects up there a little bit more, and it just gives it a little bit more, variety, range, and thus visual interest, rather than just having it all white, which I did most of the time. I mean, I still do it, sometime. But I like it better with a little bit more of a varied application of, I guess, light like that, okay? So go like that. Like that, and see that's a little bit transitioned like that. It's kind of what's going on, throughout most of the scene too. It's just kind of reiterating that range, light to dark, light, dark, Let's add a little bit more down here. Speaking of that, all right. Now, like I said, you can add more white to this later on, but like I said, it's if you can get it kind of down first, that'd probably be better, because you're going to have your imagery in here, and definitely you don't want to go over it while that imagery is wet. Okay, but even after it dries, you can put a little bit of this cloudy illuminated haze over the top of it, but spray seal it first. All right. My lid here. It's been a long time. That's a lot of white laid down on there. Let me see, where are we on this? Yeah, it's like a half an hour of applying white on here. But this is a big scene too, so anyway. Yeah, I think that's the way to go too, is the moon with star, or I can do some splatter painting in here, and it could represent like some snowfall or something like that, which would be kind of interesting, I think, as well. But I mean, that's most of the work on this. It's like making a pre-printed background or something like that, except this one's still wet, to do. But when you're doing those pre-printed backgrounds, you're just kind of stamping on them for the most part. And, I do a little bit of shading on them. But on this one, you can't really do that. You can't really shade unless you lock everything down again with some spray fixative or, clear spray or acrylic spray of some sort. All right, I think this is really juicy, but let's just make sure. Maybe I don't want it like overly juicy, but pretty substantial here. It's just because if you go with a kind of a drier ink over the top of a wetter one, that wetter one's probably going to transfer onto the, it's going to go from wet to dry like that, and you might be removing ink. Inevitably, you might be doing a little bit of both, but you want to transfer more of this naturally to the surface. And it's probably a better idea, if I did go out and spray seal this. But let's just try it without doing that. Now, if I don't get a really good impression here, then I'm going to go outside and spray seal, before I go on to the next impression. But let's see how it goes. Maybe I should do my first impression up here. And if it stamps out a little bit lighter, that'll be fine because it'll kind of recede visually in the distance, and I'll go for a darker one right here, maybe after spray sealing. I mean, ideally though too, you don't spray seal this when, while it's still wet like this. In this case, I would probably have to give it, I don't know, a couple hours to dry. And I don't like heat setting this either on top of the foil. I don't like heat setting foils too much because they bend and they can arc, and they can also delaminate if you keep the heat in there for too long. Not all foils, okay? It's those ones that are like super glassy. I think it has I don't know if it has like a laminated top, or it's probably not laminated, but that's probably the wrong word. But I think it's coated with something that's really thick, a really thick glossy coating on here that makes it really glassy. Only the ones that I know that have that are the silver and gold ones that I use for those reflection cards. All the other ones seem kind of more exposed. Like if I add like color on top of this with white, like I did right down here, oftentimes on my cotton ball, I'll get like this reddish ink coming off on the cotton ball. And it's just because they print those colors right on top of, I think, silver. Silver is probably the base foil color. But on these super glassy ones, I think there's some sort of coating locking down the color on top of it. Because, like, I had a lot of ink on that, and there's no blue on this whatsoever. Okay, let's give this a shot here and let's see how this, if it works out, I guess. Sometimes I'm surprised when I get a pretty good print. I just put my finger right there and it removed that white ink. Okay, so here, I'm never quite exactly sure about how much pressure to apply on this because, again, you're stamping wet into wet. This cardstock is not porous like at all, so sometimes I think if you press too hard, you might be squeezing out that ink from, underneath the stamp. So I just adequate pressure, adequate and even pressure. Ah, that's a really good impression there. I think it had to do with the re-inking of this, because that's one of the better prints that I've had on top of this, glossy of a surface right here. And let me get that little finger print off. All right, let's see. When I was lifting that off, I was sitting there thinking to myself, please have stamped out. I'm going to have to finish this one off in a future video, I think. Because I really want to add some of this white pigment ink in front of this object, so it looks like it's kind of enveloped in that cloudy structure. We'll bring in a bunch of clouds in here. I'll add in some highlights on top of these rocks and trees, and that'll really bring this to life. Okay, let me see if I can get as good of a impression on this one here. All right, it's printing out just absolutely fine. Look at that. I put another hole up there. I don't know, I must have touched it, as I was stamping out like that. It's the good and the bad of this type of paper, or technique, I guess, combination of media. It's completely user-friendly, and, you know, if you make a mistake, you know, like this, if these things didn't print out or something like that, you can just wipe that all off and, you know, start again. Okay, let's go with the that has a lot of ink left on there still. And let's go with this mountain right here. Let me see. Oh, there was this little island right here too. I think that's going to be too much. I think it's going to be important on this one to keep it kind of simple. Here, not too complex in terms of the amount of imagery. I think I need that space in between the imagery on this type of paper. Okay, Mystic Hills, large. Okay. Let's see if that transfers over as well. Hello in Hawaii. Jane. Hey, good to see you. Is that Oahu there? Hey, what's the temperature out in Hawaii right now? I'm doing these videos, and you know, people are mentioning like extra hot temps from all over around the country, or out of the country too. All right, there's our mountain up there. Yeah, we need to bring in some additional clouds, like like in front of all of these objects, and it'll really set them into the scene, you know, a lot more, you know, than they are right now. It looks like clouds in the background and imagery stamped over the top of them, which it is, but we want to really give kind of a little bit more of a, I don't know, kind of a three-dimensional look with additional white pigment ink applications in here. But again, I'll really dry this off completely first. Okay, now I have this area in here. After seeing the composition now, other things come to mind that I want in here in terms of subject matter. Oh, you're in Riverside now. That's all right. What's it out in Riverside right now? It's not 100, is it? Down this way, I don't think it's 80 yet. But it feels that way. I wanted to go to Joshua Tree National Park. What was it? Was it 2 weeks ago? But it was already up, you know, like 100 and something. Riverside would be a good place for me to live because it's closer and more convenient to my two favorite hiking areas, and that's Joshua Tree, not in the summertime, but Idlewild and San Jacinto up in the high elevation right up there. Okay, so adding in some additional tones right down here. So I want to have this as a usable area to stamp imagery in. I'm going to stamp one of my little figures down there. All right, so we fill that area in with that. Okay, I was gonna say with a little bit of ink. We need more ink, otherwise. See if I have like a little boating, character down there, little fishing boat. We need that. Oh, okay. So I'll put some of that moonlight down there too. I wasn't thinking about that. This is like water down here, so we'd have some of this moonlight reflecting down in there. I think that would make sense. So I'll have this like a little line of whatever reflected moonlight down in this area. I think that is enough right there. There we go. Let's go with that. All right, let me see if I can find my little fishing boat figure. Oh, we're in luck. It's right here. You're being plagued by crickets now. That's interesting. I didn't used to see too many crickets around where I grew up, but I remember one summer there were crickets everywhere. And it happened to be this one, not just summer, but the entire year. I grew up in Lompoc, which is in the central coast of California, but one year there was a bunch of crickets, luckily for us, and because a friend of mine bought one of those chameleons as like a pet, one of those that kind of shoots out like a long tongue to grab its prey. So we didn't have to buy, he didn't have to buy any crickets that year. Because there were so many around that year. We don't have too many crickets down here in San Diego. I think it was last year though. It seemed like a gazillion spiders were out for some reason. And I think other people mentioned it too from around the country. All right, so little fishing boat right in that spot right there. I'm not sure if it's light enough though. Yeah, let's just go for it. I was having a hard time kind of building up some white there for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe my white's getting kind of dry now. Okay, a little bit extra careful there with that one because this is like a smaller image. And if I skew any type of imagery on this type of situation, it's usually the smaller ones. Because they can kind of like slide. You know what I mean? It's like a thick layer of very slippery ink on top of a slippery surface, on top of wet, a layer of wet ink in there. And again, it's not getting absorbed. None of that moisture is getting absorbed into the surface, so it's all sitting there on the surface. But if that's smeared out, you just take a paper towel or a cotton ball and just wipe it right off and just start over again, and it should be fine. Oh, stay in San Diego. Yeah, San Diego has some good weather. We're kind of inland, though. We're more around, the Poway, you know, Rancho Bernardo area, so a little bit warmer, than whatever, 7 miles, towards the coast. All right, let's see. Let's add in our foreground. I don't really want to add in the I'll add in a little bit of the foreground, just like right around in here, but I'm going to leave some of this open in here for when I apply more pigment ink later on. But I was looking at this area up here. I think I can apply some of this right now, right around in here, because that mountain goes to about right here. So I can fill this area in here with a little bit more white pigment ink right now. And I think that would be okay, as long as I could stay off of that black impression right there. I'll just add a little bit of this in there, while I'm doing this. Again, if anyone's watching this right now, what I'm going to do is, this ink is really wet on here, and I'm going to allow it to dry, then I'm going to spray seal it with a workable fixative, which is like an acrylic spray. And then I'm going to go back in and add more white over the top of it to make it look like there's mist in front of all of these different objects, and it's going to give the scene a lot more depth and lighting. And it should tie the imagery together a lot more. Okay, but you can't really do that without spray sealant first. Oh, so speaking of that, I guess, I don't know. I'm not sure if I stamped the imagery out in StazOn ink. And again, the fear is stamping out an image and not having the ink transfer on here, but lifting off the white ink off of the page. So StazOn ink dries really fast. So I'm talking about the black, black StazOn is the one that I would be potentially using here. But if I could stamp, with a black StazOn ink on top of that, now I'm thinking, I'm not sure too. If I tapped over the top of that black StazOn, these would already be dry, and I can go in and just do that application, and then I would spray seal it anyway, because you have to lock down that white in there. But I think I could have potentially added in the whatever, the overlapping white, just immediately, if that would work out. But again, I don't know if it would work or not. I don't know how the StazOn ink would take to wet, water-based white pigment ink that's still laying in there. Okay, so I've added a little bit of this cloud right now. That cloud will, rise up a little bit higher, in that second application, whatever, the follow-up applications of white that I'll do. All right, let's see here. So we need to anchor these little, whatever, islands a little bit more. We'll do that with the Tiny Rock Small here. So we see how this goes. Hello, Sharita. Sharita, here's that glossy blue foil that I popped out, brought out last night. I was just mentioning the live stream last night. I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do today for this live stream, but I did get some of the this paper recently and wanted to try it out. Okay, so see this black pebbly rock is just, I'm adding that around the base of this. And it just kind of carries that image out a little bit like that. And then we'll do it right up here. And we'll add a little bit of foreground after that. So doing this right here, it extends the image out. It kind of gives it a little bit of like a shadow area too. It doesn't represent a shadow, but I guess it shades it though. And what it does though too, maybe above it, everything else that it's doing, is that it brings a little bit of continuity between this image and this one. Textural continuity, which really helps in here. Okay, I think that's enough of that. Okay, so I think this will look pretty cool with those additional cloud formations in there. And I'll add in some highlights in here as well, with like a blue and white paint pen. Can't do it now again because, let me see if I could show you guys this. I don't know if you can see it. It's too glary. Like you can see like shimmering kind of wet ink in there. Okay, maybe you can see it right there. It almost looks like the ink is the imagery's embossed. It's kind of got that lumpy kind of shiny look to it. So it's like completely wet, which is an interesting way to work too. Because we're usually stamping on stuff, and maybe there's moist inks and everything like that, but I mean, this one's like completely damp, from the sheer amount of white pigment ink on there, and then the super, inked up black impressions here because I, just re-inked the, my Brilliance black here, so. All right, I'm getting some good impressions here. Sometimes you have to kind of get the feel of it, practice on a piece of, scrap paper or something like that. Just getting your impressions, because here's what happens. If I don't do this for a while and I'm not thinking about it, I'll stamp this out and it's like, oh my God, it's like, I skew it a little bit when you're stamping it down, because you touch like that and then it's like the paper is so slippery and so is the inks, and it's easy to do that. So, just real kind of, I don't know, whatever, kind of decisive impressions. I mean, I still get, the blurred image once in a while, but I just keep it down like that, and I lift up like that, and I see how blurred it is. Most of the times, it's not to the point where I have to redo it. But, once in a while. So just be, kind of extra mindful. Like these reeds, it wouldn't matter too much if it's a little bit skewed, but like I wouldn't want that. That little subject matter. If it's like a person or an animal, that's kind of like a, a little bit more of an attention getter. Just kind of be a little bit mindful of that. All right. I do like the idea of like some snowfall in here. And I think we could do that right now. Because the white, Dr. Martin's bleed-proof white, like dries instantly. So I'm going to put a little bit of a dusting over this right here. I don't know if it, it doesn't have to be snowfall. It could be just some kind of, whatever. It's magic pixie dust, flying over the top of it. But it'll unify these things in here a little bit more, and it'll give it a little bit more of a. It extends our value range. Okay, now we have some pretty white in here, and the clouds are giving it continuity too because it's in the back of everything. But we can give something in front of this too. It's like another textural layer, but it's also light, and it just brings things together a little bit more. It's like another kind of needle and thread type of, metaphoric type of thing that you're running through all of your different imagery. So in this one right here, it's the white pigment ink. It's the blue foily reflective background that's running through everything. So it's like two things. But we can add in another one that's of a different textural range, so this is going to be nice and crisp little dots against, a more really soft type of textural whatever background. And you see that saved sometimes, especially in those like Asian things. They'll take like it's usually not white, but it's usually like black ink or something like that. They'll have like a swag of a branch or something like that with little blossoms on it. And then they'll just kind of, with their brush, they'll do this tap down. It kind of splatters things. It gets this cool kind of textural thing going on. Allergy medicine last night. I fell asleep 15 minutes. Uh-oh. You didn't miss anything, Candy. Yet, what are you allergic? Are you allergic to pollen? Yeah, glad you like the color here, Sharita. I really like this color of blue here. You photograph your glossies so well. That's hard. Photograph it? Oh, you mean like for the post or something like that? Okay, let's see here. All right, so looks like I don't need to add any water to this. For those that might not know, Dr. Martin's bleed proof white is, I got a preliminary dot right there. You can see how much it stands out. Dr. Martin's bleed proof white is a really opaque watercolor paint that dries really fast. It's not like a permanent paint or anything like that. It's just, it has really fine, super fine, very opaque granules of something. I don't know what it is. Diatomaceous earth or something. I have no idea. But it's super opaque, and it's what, oftentimes what calligraphers use in light over dark. Either brushwork or the, dip pen type of lettering. All right, let's see what we can do here. I'm just kind of releasing a couple little hairs at a time, then I cock the bristles, and I just kind of add these in very kind of methodically. Sometimes I don't know, which direction, this old toothbrush is going to spray either, so I kind of have to check that out. Sometimes I'm going like this and it's going right exactly where I think it's going to go, but then sometimes I'm doing this and it seems like it's shooting like out this way. I don't know why. Maybe it's like, I don't know how dry the bristles are or something. I don't know. I see this too, those little dots can really stand out at times, so you can, make your adjustments accordingly. It's not so much of like a, spray and pray type of thing. You're just kind of hoping it'll come out, if you just go zip, like that. So it's just, I'm just, again, it's just like going like this and then releasing, I don't know, it's like 10 hairs or something like that. Then I go back up and I just do that again like that. So it's not like this, like all throughout. So you get a little bit more of a, I don't know, whatever, random pattern, somewhat of a like spray pattern. The thickness of the dot is different every time. So I've never kind of gotten a really good fix on if having this paint a little bit thinner gives you more variation or having it thicker does. I'm not quite sure. I think it's thin though. I thought before it was like thick, but I think it just stays on the brush longer where I'm kind of caulking and flicking, it comes out on a finer grain pattern, maybe because it's holding onto the brush harder. I don't know. But I do like those little variations in there, with the larger dots. So if I don't get those inherently in the spray, then I just add in, some additional ones here with the acrylic paint pen. If you ever get too much spray like up there or something like that too, you can just wipe it off. It'll come right off even, after it dries too. On talking about on this type of paper. Now if something goes haywire in here, I don't want to wipe that off because I'm going to be wiping off the clouds too. But one of the things I was mentioning earlier though, which was probably a good idea, is if you do your clouds first, then spray seal it, then stamp over the top of it, with your black imagery, and then, I don't know, maybe you can seal it off before you use spray pattern too, so, if you do need to remove any, you can, because all the other imagery are locked down in layers underneath it. Okay, so I can't go over some of these areas too much. I'm starting to get a little clogging here with this. I think some of the wet white pigmenting, because it's going up into the tip here a little bit, so. And I really feel like adding in some of those highlights on these rocks right now, but I'm going to get some of that black wet pigmenting up in my tip here, so. Which isn't a big deal, because you can just kind of scribble it out, but if I don't want to fight it, and keep having to do that, so. I'll just go a little bit like that for right now. And that will be step 1 of that process on this card right here. So blue foil, very reflective, like that. And I was mentioning in the video last night when I was showing this, is that this looks really blue right here. It looks like in the lighter areas like a cobalt blue or something like that, but it's more of like a slight violet tinged blue in person here. So yeah. So okay, so if you just joined in, I'm gonna wait for this to dry, and I'm going to spray a workable fixative over the top of it. Even those workable fixatives are matte, I find that they don't interact with the glossy surface of these as much as like a thicker gloss spray would. And I just figured, because those gloss sprays are thicker, like a Krylon UV resistant clear or Krylon crystal clear, those types of things, I guess it adds on a thicker coat. So I find that these real mirrored types of surfaces get a much more kind of brushed, aluminum-ish looking final result, which looks cool too, but you retain more of the glossiness of this with the workable fixative. And I think it's because it's just the workable fixatives are like a thinner style of acrylic spray. So it's just not slathering it as much. Okay. But anyways, I'm going to go back in and add in some more clouds and highlights and things like that over the tops of these images. And that'll really, really bring it together, I think. And it'll give the imagery a little bit more of a three-dimensional look. But anyways, I really like that, how it came out, and the background's pretty decent with the clouds. I saw this, how glossy this was, and mirrored, so I wasn't quite sure of the adhesion that the white or the, I guess the white would have on this surface right here. I didn't know if I could build it up as much as I wanted it to, but I could, because you still have, some of these areas that are really light in there. I need to blend this little area out a little bit more too. This white just kind of ends abruptly like that, so we'll bring in some cloudy textures like right in here and in front of that little boat. But a little winter time, the mystic Mystic Valley. Okay, I wanted to do one more quick scene here. I was having fun with Deanna Tubb-Sedillo's cool background papers. And here's this one right here that I was looking at yesterday. And I did another tag with one of them before where I could do it where the light source or whatever up top was, separated from the bottom half, pretty decently. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this like this and fold it in half to find that midpoint. And this is going to be this little kind of mini horizon card, okay, like this. So this is going to be like ground or something like that. It could be clouds up in the sky too, but it's almost like a gift tag size right here, all right? And we'll put some sort of little horizon in here, and we'll turn this into some sort of a, I'm not sure yet what I want it to be. It could be waves on the ocean or something like that. Maybe that's what we'll do here. I think that's what I did before. I can't remember on the previous one. But it makes for a perfect little horizon card format like that. The way the light source is positioned in relation to the bottom area. Okay, so let's do this. All right, so this Seaside Cove is going to be placed right there. Okay, and then I'll refine it, with some light and shade in here. And I'll probably put some trees up top here, something like that. All right, so we're going to switch up with some inks. The Brilliance, I'm sure, will work on there. I think just about any ink works on here. But my favorite, I think, to this point in time happens to be the hybrid black ink, the Eclipse, Total Eclipse Black. Okay, put a smudge of black right there, but that, no worries. Okay, let's see here. I'm trying to see where my crease is there. Forgive my head. All right, there we go. Decent amount of pressure. Allow your inks to transfer to the surface here. Oh, the glossy, yeah. I always have it at, when I'm photographing, I have it at an angle typically. It's probably like a 45-degree angle or something like that. And then I just hold it with my hand, like that, and I adjust accordingly. Not all of them, but I don't know. I'll usually prop them up right here on my desk afterwards. Yeah, aren't these fun little, fun little horizon cards, Sharita? I should do like that. I did it once before. I did that, those little mini holographic reflection cards. Holographic cards. It was holograph over holograph, and they were kind of like this size. They were a couple scrap pieces, and I thought, hey, those are kind of fun, They make like for fun little gift tags or something. All right, so see this right here. See, doesn't that work out good? I mean, that ocean and things like that, and clouds. I mean, like the landscape, it can really relate. I guess especially too because the ocean is a reflective surface, so it could just be reflecting on what's going on in the sky or something like that too. But all right, let's add in some additional textures like this. just in terms of the sheer number of impressions with a given image that I've made, I think that this Tiny Rocks stamp could eventually overtake, well, maybe not, the tonal applicator. That's this one stamp that I used to use to add tone to my scenes before ink pads came out, where you're using it like this, you know, to tone in whole scenes and get all that color down. But I really saw that as more of like a tool than like a stamp. But in terms of like image impressions, I guess, I think this one's going to be the one that I've used the most. Yeah, I don't know. It didn't come about till like, I don't know, whatever, 25 years after I started the company. So, but just the sheer amount of times I'm using it on one card, you know, I think it's gonna overtake whatever the second place one would be. Maybe I'll use the same tree right here, just because I have it out. I better clean this off though, unless I just use the Brilliance Black on there again. Maybe I should use the Brilliance Black, as opposed to the hybrid. Okay, I just had to squish this down because my tack and peel isn't super tacky right now. I need to wash it off. Okay, so I'm going to use the hybrid on this one. On this tiny little card here, I'm not going to go from bottom up, okay, and put that right down there because, you know, the trees will be going way off the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mask this off right here like so, okay. Kind of under mask a little bit. You can see that little space in there, just so I don't get this big white, you know, gap in between my mask and the object below, because I want this to be like sitting on that horizon line. So like I said, under mask a little bit, and plus I have the fold in here now too, so that fold is down there. Okay, let's see. I'm going a little bit lower. Let's put some of this in front of that moon as well, maybe. We'll go like this. Extra pressure right around that mask area. Maybe I've under masked too much. I don't know. But on the Seaside Cove stamp, it's kind of fine because you can bring it down into the Seaside Cove too, and it looks like it's just, you know, closer. Okay. Like that. And now let's just leave that open right there. Sometimes I want to close it like that, like it's a little bit of a... Actually, that looks pretty good right there. I think I'm just going to use a little tip of this right here. Right here. Sometimes you use, you know, whatever, 10% of a design. Okay, let me see. I want to make sure that I don't get my tree up here. Like that. It's a fun little cove right there. It's one of the things that, you know, when you're stamping scenes, it's like, you know, unless it's like maybe like a, whatever, a spooky Halloween scene, you know, one of the kind of the gauges of, you know, successful whatever scene is, you know, maybe you'd want to be there, or, you know, it'd be cool to see that, you know, be in that location at that time. And I think I'd want to be there in this one. So if you're in hot weather, sweltering, we'll meet here for a stamping retreat this weekend. Be there, be square. All right, I'm looking for my little baby sea turtles. I think it'd be cool to have them kind of going right there. I think I want to add them in. Let me see. Yeah, I'm gonna add the little one in. There'll be a little bit of a, like a fine detail in here. Maybe people won't notice them at first, or they'll just kind of blend in with some of the little pebbly textures in there. Okay, let me stamp this in here. Yeah. Like that. They're running for their lives, but I don't see any predators here, so they should. Oh, not the stays on. Yeah, they're a little bit more obscured with this grass right here, so only us here will know they're there. All right, now let's see. Looks like I've pulled a couple violet toned pencils out from I don't know, whatever previous scene here. Here's a white pastel pencil. I don't find that like white colored pencil really shows up as easily as the pastel pencil. Okay, I can go darker, but sometimes I don't find like going lighter on top of dark with the colored pencil really shows up very well. So so the pastel pencil, okay, this is called a Carbothello by Stampscapes, or I don't know how you pronounce that. Okay, but I think, you know, the colors that I'll probably use for shading are violet, okay, like purple and black, you know, just the same colors that are on here. And what I'll do is I'll start toning in underneath some of these waves. Yeah, you really don't need to. I think it looks, you know, pretty cool as is without doing anything. But this will just be a little bit of fine tuning, and this is the type of stuff that I find really fun to do anyway. It's like kind of bringing something into focus a little bit more than it maybe already is. So like down here, there's lighting down here, but I can kind of add in that shadow at the edge of the, you know, that wave in front there, like that. I can put a little bit of shadows underneath these waves in the background. And see, like something like this right over here, I'm going to have this, you know, this rock with these trees casting a little bit of shadow. So I'll come in here like this and, you know, kind of refine the lighting in here based on, you know, the positioning of the imagery that was used in here. So, so it's just kind of fun to do. And it's fun to do too, especially after, you know, I mean, this we can totally handle here and apply whatever we want on here, you know. Unlike this one's a little bit of a different experience where, you know what I mean, you get it stamped out and you have to kind of, you know, be careful that you don't touch stuff in here because it's going to lift the ink off there, you know, before we spray seal it, you know, before it dries and we spray seal. So it's kind of fun to do something like this. Okay, so see that right there? I gave that a little bit more of a, like a shadow like that. So that's the purple going from here to here. So I'll add in a little bit of darker tone, but I won't bring it out quite as far, okay? Same thing with this black underneath here. Just kind of accentuate what I've already done with the purple. So the purple's going like, what I'm talking about is, let's say here's the wave like that cresting over like this. Okay, so I've come in with the purple underneath it like this, okay? And I've gone like that with it, so a little bit darker underneath the wave, you know, with that purple like that, okay? Now what I've done with the black is I've come in here like this, so I've gone in here like that. This is what I'm doing. But see, I don't bring that black as far out, you know, as I did with the purple, okay? So we get this nice transitioning type of look to that shadow work. It's not like a super formula. It's not like I'm going to the black. Oh my God, you know, I went as far as I did with the purple. You know what I mean? It's not that, but I wouldn't come out like this, you know, with that level of darkness right here. It's like, you know what I mean? As long as you kind of transition it, you know, it's fine too. Okay, so you can model your rocks here if you want to a little bit more. If you want a little bit of a darker horizon line up there, you can add that in. Okay, now you can see these waves in here, right? But they're not light in here because I stamped them over a darker area on this background paper. So the background paper doesn't know where you're in stamp, so, you know, it's just a pre-existing background. So what you can do is you can go in here now with this lighter area pencil and you can reveal the light in here now, okay? So I'll add a little bit more in the lighter areas like this, okay? But here's my transition, okay? So it's a little bit lighter here. See this area right in here, you can see this light from the paper, right? So I'm putting a little bit more. And then I'm just transitioning that out this way. Yeah, so it's a little bit lighter right there and darker in the darks, okay? If you add too much of the pastel, just erase it, you know. Kind of the same thing with the colored pencil to an extent, you know, you can kind of erase if you want. If you add, in this case with the pastel pencil, it's like maybe you added too much or something like that, you know, and usually if I do that, I just kind of dab a little bit off with my finger. Okay. So like that. If you want a little bit of a, you know, lighting down here in the sand, you can add that in there. I'm not going to do too much this one. With the pastel pencil, it's probably a good idea to spray seal it, spray fix it if you have it. But on this one right here, because this is a matte paper and you're adding the pastel over it in matte, you know, this isn't like a built-up application of pastels. I mean, if you don't want to spray it, you don't have to. That like that. Look how, see how three-dimensional that kind of looks right there? It's kind of fun. It's a fun little, it's a fun size, I guess. All right, so we have like soft applications of light in there. And let's add in a few little crisp applications of light, to give this water scene that has a, super strong light source on it a little bit more contrast and texture in here. With our white paint pen, acrylic paint pen, or if you have a gel pen, that would work too. I'm trying a different little touch here. I usually go with a more of a dot type of effect, but let's see how this looks here. Well, here, let's do a little bit of spray foam or something like that. Something like that. Let's put this little glistening, little sandy area, because that's where the light is right here in the background paper. I'll kind of put a little bit more shimmer in that area. All right, something like that. All right, and let's go in, might as well, and add a little bit of pigment ink into it. And we'll have a pretty good little textural statement in a very small space here. Like I said, this card, it's it'd be half of a quarter page, so an eighth page horizon card. It's kind of fun. All right, so here's some white pigment ink right here, and we'll add in a little bit of lighting and atmosphere into the piece. Okay, now this is the type of thing that I want to do on that, this scene right here. I want to add in these little types of lighting touches like this on top of the foil. All right, so see that nice little glow there, and see this sharp, what happened? My camera's hunting for focus for some reason. It's still a little bit off, but here. Maybe it looks better. A little bit blurred. But see this right here, I'm just kind of, transitioning that little rock right there in both texture and... Here, let me refocus this right here. I might have to flip the camera off here. Here. There we go. All right, a little bit more atmosphere there, and let's bring it into the foreground as well. A little bit. Maybe a Q-tip would be better on this such a small little scene. What I'm doing is I'm pinching this off to get a really kind of narrow application of it. Narrow and very dry application. All right, so adding that into that little wave there, that worked out pretty good. It's kind of like a nice little soft touch with the pastel pencil and the white pigment ink. Maybe if you have, like a white pastel, whatever, Pan pastel, you can use it right over the top of these too. Okay, that worked better right there too. Look at that light on that rock right there with the pigment ink. All right, so our little baby sea turtles are kind of, you know, making their way into a nice shimmery mystic blue sea, violet sea or whatever. Go like that. This one right here, again, is not done, but two pretty, I don't know. I wouldn't call this one fast. It's not fast, I had to lay down a lot of ink on that. But if this is a quarter page right here, you can do the same type of thing. It'd be much faster, but again, two examples of, pre-existing, backgrounds in there that already have a good deal of lighting kind of established on there because it's reflecting so much light off of there. On this one right here, we have the moon and the clouds underneath it. Now the clouds turned into water, which I've done, I guess, in the past 2 days here with the baby sea turtles on this one. I really like this one here too with the photograph right in here. But this one really worked out really nice in terms of a ocean and shoreline like that, especially with that color. Just worked out great down there for sand. But again, this is a really fun little format right here. I really like these little cards that we can turn into a horizon card, and then on these background cards, you already have this paper that's kind of printed on both sides, so you can do some sort of interesting little name tag or I don't know, word stamp or whatever you want to do on there. So there's other ones too. I don't know if this one's like this. It can't go down like below this horizon line. I mean, you can trim it off here where it'll work, but you can do it on a lot of these ones, like this one right here. But they weren't made for that, it's made, so you could stamp your imagery down here and it's all on the same card right here. But I don't know, that horizon card format, just by folding these things in half, I think this looks okay like this too. It makes for a really good card and I would mat it off, but that kind of adds in a pretty cool little like three-dimensional effect to it, you know what I mean? And there's something to a nice kind of a reveal too, I find, when opening up something like this. To me, it looks like a little bit, I don't know, like a diorama or something like that, using just that natural card base formatting of the folded card like that though too. So I don't know. So if you want to kind of throw a little extra little tweak into your stamping, fold your cards in half. Not all of them, but I don't know. I never thought to do like a quarter page card like that. Now that's using the pre-existing, printed card. I mean, but we can do that, with our own cards too. Just take whatever cards we're doing, just, put that fold in there. Someone asked me that too before. Are you just kind of folding something in half, or are those two components? Well, on this one right here, this is photo stamping over, some other type of card base down here. And I've done all kinds of things. I've stamped out the whole scene down here using like the Seaside Cove and everything like that. Coupled it with a photograph, so in which case these are two completely different types of elements. But I've been doing mostly different elements right here. Scene up top, mirrored surface down below for a reflection card, or like this, a horizon card. But I don't know, it's pretty fun just, like I said, folding something in half like that, and then just this being the card base itself as well. So fun to do with the pre-printed cards, because again, I don't have to do very much on it. It's really fast. But yeah. All right, so Glad you like it, and the drama there. The drama of the dramatic first steps right there, the baby sea turtles. And that's a good point there though, because in terms of something like this, we want it to be kind of a dramatic type of moment, like that, and it's sure fun to do in like such a small little format like that. And if that was the one that you were referring to, but yeah. Really had some fun here in the past couple of days. Is this the one I did yesterday? I can't even remember now. But yeah, that one was a lot of fun too. And I mean, I played around with this one, but it looked pretty good just stamping on it, without adding all those other types of things on here. On this one right here, though, I think it was really good to add in the shading and the highlighting in there just to kind of define more the that seaside cove in there and just making it look more ocean-like. And just, again, using the inherent lighting that was already on the card. I think it in the form of those represented clouds before, so yeah. What is the weight of Deanna's... I don't know, but I would say, Laura, I would guess that it's at least around 100 pound, I'm guessing. It's pretty thick here. So I'm thinking it's more than a 90. And it's on the matte. I can't tell if it's a matte semi-gloss or just a matte. I have a feeling that it's a matte cardstock that it's printed on. So I do believe it has a clay coating on there. But again, I'm not certain about that. But it takes the inks really well, and it really takes the dry media well, too. As far as my colored pencils go, I have no problem with it. And then that pastel pencil really applies really beautifully to it, too. So, yeah. Stampscape Stamping Retreat. Yeah, we were thinking about doing one of those years ago. It was with the Yahoo group, I think. Yeah. We were thinking about, yeah, like the Scenic Stampers Association or something like that. And I was thinking about... Then we started having some retreats, too, years ago. But it was out in Chicago. This one stamper hosted that one, and those were really fun. It wasn't really a instructional thing, but just a bunch of scenic stampers getting together, and we just stamped. But inevitably, you do learn. It's like, okay, I got the new Copic, airbrush, device or something like that. So that was real new at the time, and everyone kind of amassed around someone showing how to use that, or new media out there. That's where I learned about the tack and peel from Ken Pesho. Some people are, do all watercolors or something like that, so I can watch them doing watercolor effects, stuff like that, or just Copic marker blending. It was really fun. And but the thing that made that one easy was that Karen Wallace, who hosted that, she basically had, I don't know, I guess at the time, I think it was every scenic stamping stamp that was currently being produced, in her own collection. So most of us just borrowed her stamps. You know what I mean? Because people weren't, traveling, with like tons and tons of luggage and stuff, because you already had to bring your own, your stamp pads and supplies and paper and things like that. But she took care of all the stamps. So, but it was really fun to do and see different scenes being churned out with all kinds of different techniques too. So, thanks so much, Cynthia. I appreciate that. But anyways, yeah. But we were thinking about all kinds of different areas. I thought it'd be kind of cool to have like a scenic stamping retreat in a really cool area. So we were thinking about things like Sonoma or something. This is back before things got jacked up in price. There was actually inexpensive travel at the time. And I remember Ken Pesha was going to pick people up, and because he lived out there. And but then when we started having the retreats out in Chicago, because that was more central to everyone, you know what I mean, in the country. we figured, I figured out that we can have the retreats can really be anywhere because we never left the room anyway. You know what I mean? So it doesn't need to be in like a really cool, like scenic area because we're never leaving that. You know, we were in the stamping room like for I don't know, whatever, 14 hours a day. Some people were there like all night stamping. So yeah, it could be wherever. You know, we don't need to be surrounded by scenic image, scenic, great scenic splendor because we're just stamping it. So, yeah, but that was really fun. And there, I don't know how many times that went on. I think there was about 4 of them back when. I don't know. I'm talking about this, because I don't think we're going to be doing it again. But, anyways, it brings back some good memories of whatever scenic stamping, whatever camaraderie and fun like that. But yeah. All right, so this one will be, there'll be a part 2 of this one right here. This one right here is all done. Super fun working on those types of papers like that. Thanks to Deanna for providing those types of papers like that for us scenic stampers, something very specific for our small little, niche genre of stamping within the stamping community. So those are fun to work on, and it was a good idea for them to do it on the mat because it takes so many different types of media. I guess it takes any type of media that we want to apply to it. So pretty fun stuff to do. So yeah. All right, folks. Hope you have a great rest of evening. Or join in on the Thanks for joining in on the Friday Night Live. Thanks again, Cynthia, for that super chat. Really appreciate it there. I'll be able to pick up a couple interesting types of papers with that. That'll show on share with it on a future video with you guys, or test it out, at least. But I really like the look of this one right here. We'll try to figure out some other types of applications for this type of colored foil too, because it's just such a dynamic thing. But you know what I mean? We'll try to find out some good applications for it in some fast applications, And I think that's just stamping on top of them in white ink and doing that splatter painting in there like that. I did a bunch of Christmas cards using that type of colored foils before, now that I think about it. And I'll have to, I don't know, I'll have to take a look at those videos and see what I did in there. But those ones were real fast applications, and yeah. It's a really beautiful colored foil too, so. And I think some of the foils are getting cheaper too in these multi-packs, so that bodes well for us. All right, folks. Hope to see you on the next live stream. And this one right here, I'm going to hopefully get dry, and we'll be able to finish this one off and add in that extra layer of clouds in here that'll really, I think, put this one over the top. So, yeah, I can't wait to see what that one looks like. Well, it's one of my favorite tones, the blue tones like that. Deep blue tones I really love. All right, folks. So whenever that might be, we'll get that done. But you can always watch it in the pre-recorded whatever vids too. And you can see how this one turns out, or check it out on Facebook too. All right, everyone. Have a great rest of the night.